Well, it seems as we get closer to the end of the group stage game, the more complicated things have got. And in day three, this is probably the most complicated day, and probably the one that I will be talking a lot of scenarios that's going to happen in terms of these games. Because if you look at Group F right now, this is actually the only group that all four teams are still alive out of the other seven group. Even South Korea, who is sitting with no points and have a -2 goal differential and currently have not won a single game or drawn a single game in this World Cup, is still mathematically alive. While in Group E, there is just three teams fighting for two spots right here, similar to what happened in Group B and what will happen in Group H tomorrow. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this fun. Let's talk about the scenarios that's gonna happen. And for those of you that have just watched me doing this for the first time and you didn't watch the previous two times that I did these World Cup preview on the final day of the group stage, well, I'm not going to go in depth in terms of these games. I'm just going to talk about the scenario, and like I said, there is a lot of scenarios that each team can either find themselves either finish top of the group, finish second in the group, or even getting eliminated in the group. So we start with Group F, and like I said about South Korea, they're still technically mathematically alive, although they will need a lot of things to go in their favor. First of all, they need to beat Germany in that game, and they don't just have to beat Germany. They need to beat them, I think, by more than 2 goals, because South Korea will be even at 0 in terms of goal differential, and Germany would be at -2. Well, if they beat them by 1 goal, then they would. I don't think they would be enough, because then Germany would be at -1 and they would be at -1. Or actually, that if South Korea beats Germany by a goal, that is where it gets really complicated, because first of all, they tie on goal differential, they tie on points, and they tie on the goal score and goal conceded so far, and they're tied on the win column. Oh, I think the only difference that will be the tiebreaker between Germany and South Korea, that let's say if South Korea does win, is that South Korea will be moving on because they beat Germany in the head-to-head battle. But even that might still not be enough for South Korea, because they also have to hope that Mexico would beat Sweden in this game, and they would, and Sweden right now have a +0 in terms of goal differential. So if Sweden lose 1-0 against Mexico, and that this is now at a -1 goal differential, then it's gonna be the same thing. Sweden would score 2 goals, they've conceded 3, they're at -1, and the records will be still the same. And then it really will determine on the head-to-head battle, and that is when South Korea is not going to win that one, because South Korea lost to Sweden. So they better hope that Sweden lose to Mexico, but they need them to lose by more than 2 goals, and that they need to beat the goal differential over Sweden, and they need to have a higher goal differential than what Sweden has if they are tied on points. Yep, it is very complicated of how South Korea can get in, and probably very unlikely that South Korea will have all that factor in them. But you never know. It is, the odds is definitely stacked against them, but we have seen times that teams against all odds, they still somehow find a way to get into the final day. Well, they somehow find a way to find themselves into the knockout stage, despite the fact that it is very unlikely and they need everything to go in their way, and everything did go in the way. Now, for Germany and Sweden, certainly for Sweden to go through, first of all, they need to beat Mexico and hope that Germany either lose or draw to them. Now, if both Sweden and Germany loses, then once again it depends on goal differential. If Sweden did not lose to Mexico a lot, and if Germany get blowout by South Korea, then the goal differential means that Sweden will have a higher goal differential and they will move on. And it's really just kind of like, if both of these teams are going to lose, they better not lose like by a lot of amount of goals, because goal differential will play a huge part. And then if they were still tied with goal differential, then maybe they can look at the goal score and something like that. I mean, unless if both of these games does end in a draw, then and everything kind of got tied up, then Sweden will not be moving on into the next round, because Germany has that head-to-head matchup between both of those teams. Remember in the last match when Germany won 2-1 against Sweden, and that probably not only is a goal that kept Germany alive in the World Cup, but also could be a huge factor if everything with the goal differential, the same goals and the same record are all kind of deadlocked, that if it gets to head, then Germany would have the advantage. But if Germany, of course, beats South Korea and Sweden lose or draw, then yeah, they will be moving on into the next round, and it's vice versa for Sweden. Now, for Mexico, I know that they already punched their ticket to the next round, because if they lose to Sweden, and let's say that Germany, of course, beat South Korea, and actually, technically, I don't think Mexico has punched their ticket yet, because if they lose to Sweden, Sweden would be at 6 points, and if Germany beats South Korea, then Germany would be at 6 points, and then you get to a point where there's gonna be a freeway tie for 6 points, and then you have to look at the goal differential, and you gotta also look at the goals score and goal allow. And Mexico obviously has in terms of the head-to-head battle, they have it over Germany, because they beat them 1-0 in the first day of the group stage, and they definitely will have they probably won't have the head-to-head matchup against Sweden, because they lose to Sweden, and that is the way that it got to this freeway tie. And yeah, I'm not quite sure, did you guys even stay for this length of the video and listen to what the heck did I just said, because it is really complicated in terms of how each team can go through and how each team can not go through. And if I look at these two matches, I think the match that certainly a lot of people's going to pay attention is going to be the Mexico versus Sweden game, and it's not because Mexico is involved with it, and since in my area there's a lot of Mexican people, they always tune into these games, but it's because this is a match that could be very interesting, because I think Germany will probably beat South Korea, and Sweden will, they still have a chance to beat Mexico and get them to get to 6 points, but then it just gets into the goal differential, and then it gets to the fact that if Sweden beats Mexico and they beat them in a certain amount of goal differential, then Mexico would actually get down to right around this spot, and Germany will raise their goal differential, and Mexico could be eliminated with 6 points. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you would think Mexico should be through to the next round with 6 points right now, but they're not, because the two teams behind them have 3 points, and the goal differential is not that far between these teams. And with all that talk about Group H being probably the most unpredictable group, Group F is just kind of, it's mayhem in Group F, and I can't wait to see how in the world does it actually play out. I mean, I can't imagine if you're like the announcer for both of these teams, and how much you have to like explain to the viewer in terms of the scenario, because it's just so difficult to explain to them, because all of these teams are still in danger of potentially be out of the World Cup, and all these teams could also be having a chance to potentially move on into the next round. But yeah, to get to a kind of easier kind of talk about Group E, although it's not really much easier in terms of the scenario and who will move on and who will get eliminated. Let's look at Group E, and let's take a look at the fact that there's going to be 3 teams that is going to be fighting for 2 spots. And actually, let me just do that first. There we go. For some reason, the window asked me to do an update, which of course I'm not going to do it just yet. But yeah, in terms of Group E, we all know that Costa Rica has been officially eliminated in this tournament, and that there's going to be 3 teams, Brazil, Switzerland, and Serbia is going to be fighting for 2 spots. Now, Brazil and Switzerland is currently tied on points, but Brazil currently are a goal in terms of the goal differential higher than what Switzerland is. Now, in terms of the matchup, Serbia and Brazil is going to play, and if Serbia, of course, beat Brazil, then Serbia will potentially go through, depending on if Switzerland can beat Costa Rica, and if they didn't beat them, then potentially they will finish second, because Brazil will be dropped down to third. And actually, if Serbia beat Brazil, then Brazil could be eliminated in this tournament. And again, it depends to the Costa Rica versus Switzerland match, where if Switzerland lost and then Brazil also lost, then we gotta look at the goal differential, and if Brazil gets the higher goal differential, then Switzerland will be eliminated. So this is kind of, and for, I think also for Serbia, you know, they definitely need to win this game, because a draw probably won't do them much of the good, although again, it depends on Switzerland and depends on did they lose to Costa Rica, and also if they do tie on goal differential, and then they have to look at the goal score. It also kind of depends on if Serbia can have a higher goal score than what Switzerland has at +3, and even the goal score department is really close. I mean, look at this: 3 goals, 2 goals score. It is as close as the goal differential right now. So I'm actually just gonna kind of leave it to around that, because this is still kind of like up for grabs for all 3 of these teams to potentially go top of the group or even finish second in the group. This match will probably be the one that could potentially determine which team could get eliminated in the group and which team can potentially move on into the round of 16. And this is a match that certainly Costa Rica, they can play maybe a little bit of a spoiler and give Switzerland a hard time, and I think that is something that I expect Costa Rica to give Switzerland a hard time, because Costa Rica, they are very good in terms of the defensive end, and Switzerland, you know, at times they have looked good in this tournament in terms of breaking down teams, but at times they do have problems trying to break down teams. So yeah, it is going to be very interesting tomorrow of all the scenarios that's going to play out. And, you know, I talked about how today there was like a revolving door in Group D, because Argentina and Nigeria were like going back and forth. You better believe that tomorrow in these matches, there is going to be a lot of flip-flop in terms of the standings. Like, one moment maybe Sweden goes top, and one moment Germany maybe goes top and Mexico goes down to second, or maybe Mexico getting eliminated. It is just gonna be, it's gonna be crazy, okay? And I can't wait for that. I'm definitely probably even gonna wake up 7 in the morning and watch these first 2 matches, because yeah, I wonder how the announcer able to handle these kind of endless scenarios that we have to deal with coming into this final match day. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.